guys, today we are going to work on dragon eyes. Some of you have already done this with me before. I'm going to show you some examples of dragon eyes so you know what we have ahead of us. There's one. So it's going to be a lot of shading. It's going to be kind of messy. So you're going to need for this project a pencil, an eraser, and something to smear with, like a tissue or piece of toilet paper or something like that. I've done this several times now, so I know you can do it, and I'm going to give you a step-by-step tutorial how to do this eye and how to do the textures in the background, and hopefully you're going to enjoy it as much as I have. Okay, so first of all, if you have art pencils, I would get out one that is more that has more smear to it, like a softer one, like this one's a 6B that I'm going to use, but you can use a regular pencil too, which is more like this one. So we're going to start out drawing super light lines, because those lines are either going to be one, erased later, or two, smeared around later. Okay, so but we're going to do them real light for now because we don't want any hard lines. So I want you to start with drawing a square to fill up most of your paper. I would have your paper landscape like this one is. And then I want you to draw a circle on the inside of this square, touching all the sides. So really the purpose of this square becomes a way to help you get your eyeball round. Okay, because you're touching all the sides. It's okay if it's messy. You need a messy circle because we're going to smear it later anyway. Okay? So then we're going to start working on the eyelid. Now there's like 3 different creases in this eyelid. I'm going to start with the first one. It takes up about a third, the top third of this circle. And I want you to go ahead and bring it over a little bit. Okay, bring it outside of the square. Think outside the box, as they say. And then we're going to do a second one a little bit further up to show a crease. You can have that one meet up with this one if you want, or you can have it just like end right here and not meet up. It's fine either way. Okay. And then we're going to do a third line at the top that actually touches the top of this circle and just keeps going over a little bit. Okay, so I was talking about different kinds of pencils. It really doesn't matter if you just want to use one regular pencil, that is fine. You could still do this, but see how the difference is between my 2 pencils? Like this one's skinnier and lighter, and this one is much more softer and graphite on the paper that you can smear. But anyway, we'll get into that more later. So then the bottom, we're going to do the same thing. This pencil's about to break actually. They don't have to be perfect lines, they can be messy because we're going to smear it. So 1 again, 2, and then a third one. That goes along the bottom of the circle. Now I'm going to choose, I think, to have mine meet up with the other lines over here, but you don't have to do that. You could just leave them kind of hanging like that. And then on this side I'm going to kind of have my eyelids meet up with each other too. Alright, so those are the basic shapes to start with. Got your square, your circle inside the square that touches all the sides, and then we did 3 lines on the top and 3 lines on the bottom to show where the eyelid wrinkles are for this dragon. So now we did these lines pretty dark, these creases, and in between them I just want you to do kind of light lines with your pencil. Just sketch it a little bit just so you have a little bit of graphite on the paper to smear in a minute. Doesn't have to be filled in solid, just lightly kind of just shading it a little bit. Okay, doesn't have to be pretty, just messy shaded. With what you got. Then this is where I want you to take your pencil and smear it. Okay? You can smear it all over your paper, inside and outside this eye. We're just gonna smear. And we're gonna do this a couple times, so please make sure you've got something to smear with. And don't worry if it's messy, that's the point. Okay? I gotta fix my pencil really quick, excuse me. There we go, a little bit better. Okie dokie. So now, I'm gonna do the pupil of my dragon, and I want it to be like a diamond shape, skinny diamond shape like that. And I'm gonna fill that in pretty solid dark. And this is gonna smear like crazy later, so don't worry about it too much if it's not perfect, because we'll go back and we'll do it again in a minute to make it darker. And I want you to go back and shade the eyelid creases again, especially the one on the top and the bottom, because if you think about an eye, we want the eye to look like it's in the background and that this eyelid is over the top of it, covering it, so it might cast a natural shadow on top. We want it to look 3D. And then we're gonna shade those creases one more time, the ones we already drew. We're gonna go over that just to make it darker. Okay, and then I want you to draw kind of a circle right here that looks like a highlight. So it's almost as if this dragon was looking at the moon or something like that, and it's going to reflect right there. Okay, and then we're going to add some texture to this eye. Okay, I want you to do some little crazy lines coming out from the center pupil. Give this eye some texture. And I'm going to make this a little darker in the corner. You don't have to do this if you want. You can do some straight lines, or you can just leave it clear, but it'll add some interesting texture to it. Okay, now we're going to smear again. You could try to avoid this highlight area if you want, but we're going to take an eraser to it later to make it really pop as the lightest area on this page, because it's pretty smeary right now already. But so you can either try and avoid it, or you can just erase it later and not worry about it. So I'm going to do kind of a combo of both. I'm not going to worry about it too much, but I'm going to try a little bit to avoid it. Okay, so now with your eraser, that's when you can go back and erase this highlight area. And you should see it really pop as being almost shining. It almost looks like a light source because it is so much lighter than the rest of the paper. Okay, and then at the bottom of your eye ball, I want you to kind of, the iris, I want you to kind of erase a little bit more to show that it's just lighter here, like it's reflecting a little bit off of something else, because it's a ball shape, it's a round shape, so it should have a couple of reflections in it, not just one. So I'm doing this to just give it a little bit lighter area to make it look kind of smooth. You can make that go up higher if you want to, like you can bring it up. I'm not erasing everything, I'm just, giving it a different value. So here's the basic eye. Then we're going to do some eyelashes, and you can do this how you want. Some of my students like to put the eyelashes here. I kind of did these spiky eyelashes on the side. I think I'm going to make them a little different this time. I might make them a little curvy. Before I was just making them look like scary spikes. And I'll show you those finished products when I'm done here, but I'm going to make these a little curvy this time, I think. So then once you've done the eyelashes, I want you to shade them like a cone, okay? Like if you're doing them like me. So darker on the sides, a little bit lighter, and then we're going to erase a streak in the middle, like back when we did our op art worms and we were making them look curvy. how we did it dark on the sides and a little bit lighter towards the middle, and then we erased the middle to make sure it was not colored in to show that it was shiny. That's what we're going to do here. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do after I've shaded them is smear them a little bit. And it's okay if it goes all over the place because we're going to smear everything. Okay? And then we're going to go back with your eraser and give it a highlight in the middle to show that it's round and shiny. Alright, and then I'm going to go back over my creases again darker, just because when I smeared it so much it really took some of that darkness away, and I really want to show that these are darker than they are. So I'm going to go back over this again too. Alright, now comes the fun part, which is doing the texture. Okay, you guys know what parentheses are? They're like the punctuation that you use to set something apart, like an idea or just, you know, another thought or something like that when you're writing. So we're going to use parentheses. They're curved lines towards the inside like this, almost like you're going to draw a circle, but it's not a full circle because it's cut off. And we're going to do that pattern over and over and over, all over our picture. Okay, and these are going to signify the raised scales of this dragon lizard thing. And I want you to think about if you've ever pet a lizard or if you've even felt a basketball, how you have those bumps on the basketball that are raised up just a little bit, and if you were to look at them under a microscope, you would see that in between the bumps it's just a smidge darker orange on the basketball, or it's a smidge darker color for your reptiles than the bumps, which stand up and they're a little bit lighter because they're higher, they're closer to the light source. Hopefully that makes sense. So that's essentially what we're doing right now. We're coloring in between the parentheses to show that these scales are standing up a little bit lighter. I know it looks like they're super deep right now, but when we smear it, it's not going to be that, it's not going to look that deep. And then I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit more shading in kind of a round motion, circular motion to my scales. I'm doing that just to add more graphite to the paper so it smears better, okay? Then I'm going to take my smearing towelette or tissue or whatever you've got, and I'm going to smear them in these round circles like that. And then I'm going to go in with my eraser and I'm going to put a highlight on every one of these scales on the left side, just because you've got this light source. I mean, you could put it on the right side, I guess, but I don't know why I chose the left side. But anyway, so now they look kind of like scales that are raised up. And when you do this to the whole page, the effect is pretty awesome. So you keep doing this on all the eyelids. And I'm going to go ahead and just pre-draw those parentheses, and then I'll go back and shade in between. Then I'll do the round shading, circular shading, and then I'll go back and smear it, blend it, and then we'll add the highlights. And then we're going to go outside this eyeball and do those same processes to the skin, the outside of the eyelid on the skin of the eyeball. So because your lizard or your dragon is going to have that same pattern throughout, not just on the eyelids. So I'm putting that dark spot in between my parentheses to make it look deeper in the background and make these scales pop. I'm just gonna add super light circular motion, extra shading, extra pencil on there so that we can smear it really nice. Blend it is probably the better word. I just keep saying smear because that's like the average person's word that we would use. And you know what? You may find that you have so much pencil on your paper already that you don't really need to add any more. You can just smear it as it is. Like your hand's probably going to be a little bit gray by the end of this. So then we're going to take our eraser and add our highlights on the same side all the way around, because if we don't, then it's gonna make it not look realistic, because our brain will be like, wait, that shouldn't have a highlight on it. You might not think that, but you might say something's wrong and I don't know what it is, but it's probably because the highlights. Oops. Sorry. Okay, now we're gonna do, you know what, I'm gonna smear the inside of this a little bit. My eye is not dark enough, I'm thinking. So now we're doing the background, and in order for you to have like not just random dots, random circles everywhere, I think it's best if you kind of follow the same curve as the eye and give yourself some parameters. So give yourself some lines that you're like, I gotta stay within these lines as I do these textures, so I don't get too crazy and random. So what I mean by that is now I know that my scale can't be taller than that, and then they'll all be about the same size. So you don't have just these random size scales everywhere. Unless you want to do that, that might look neat too. I hadn't thought about that. If you want to do that, that's fine. So this layer. Now, because most of your shading has been further in on your paper, there's not as much pencil on the outside where the skin is going to be. So you may have to add a lot more shading to give it that same look, because you don't have as much pencil out here already. So you're going to have to do a lot more shading and blending and smearing. I'm not really sure what's going on over here, but I'm working on it. I'm gonna draw my parentheses, and then I'll fill them in, and then we'll shade them. We're almost done. I appreciate you guys sitting through these videos with me. I know I'm not the best videographer yet as far as YouTubing goes. It's on my personal betterment wish list to get better at it. But so I know the good thing about these is that you can always fast forward. You could put it on faster playback. You could put it on slower playback. You could stop it, rewind. So there's benefits to this whole YouTube thing. I'm just trying to add some graphite to my paper now, so that something's wrong with my pencil. Up here I'm kind of not doing the circular thing because there's not enough room for my pencil to do that. I guess there is here. Okay, so we're almost done. So then we go through, we do the smearing, the blending is the better word. Obviously you can spend as much time on this and making it really look smooth, you know, as you want to put into this, but this is the gist, okay? So in the gist, you've got now scales all over, and now you can go back and add your highlights, and see how smeared this is? So I might go back, if it were me, and re-add the highlights to the original ones, because now you can't even see them. I've smeared it so much. All of that is probably sitting on my hand right now. If you need to, you can always go back and add more highlight by erasing. You can go erase your area right there, the bottom part of the eye, the inside of your eyelashes, wherever you chose to put them. And then I'm going to make this darker again. Whoops, use my other pencil. This one works better. Alright, and that is it. That's pretty much the final project. Hallelujah. So you got a dragon eye. So I hope you enjoy, and I can't wait to see what your dragon eyes look like. Please upload to ArtSonia when you're done. Thanks. Bye.